Yes.
We are on. All right. Welcome to. I don't even know where I'm looking. Where's the camera?
It's up here.
There's one up there. Hello. And there's one over there. Hello. Welcome to Quarantini Hour, number 570,000.
30.
30. Oh,
30.
I overshot the mark a bit there.
30.
A cup of quarantine to get the day going. A lazy morning in New Orleans. Overcast, which means that the temperature has dropped a little bit, which is nice because we get very hot here, and so the AC is not having to work so hard. We had a great night on Tuesday with Ivan, and so I just left the road set up here. And so this to my left is an acoustic piano, a steam piano, some people call it, and this is an electric piano. And people always thought this is the old thing and this is the modern thing. Well, actually, this is quite an antique now. These have been around for a long time. And there's two kinds of electric pianos. There's the well, there's more than two, but the two main ones are the Wurlitzers. I've got a Wurlitzer on a shelf over there, and the Fender Rhodes, and they are a little bit different. And so the Fender Rhodes is great for making soft washes of noise.
My favorite.
And you play a chord on a Fender Rhodes, it just rings out. It takes a long time to decay. Whereas on a piano, well, actually this is kind of a nice piano and it's all well recorded here, so this will ring out for a while. But this instrument has a more spiky, kind of percussive front on the end. So it's better for the boogie woogie kind of stuff. That doesn't work so well on this. If you play a boogie woogie on a Fender Rhodes, it sounds ridiculous. Well, I think it sounds ridiculous, but I'll show you, give you an example. It sounds like cotton wool.
It's kind of cool, though.
It's kind of cool.
It sounds like the organ store in the mall in 1978.
Yeah. This makes a sound by the hammer hitting a tiny piece of metal. Bing, which is measured very precisely so that it gives off the correct pitch. And there's one for each note. They're called tines. So there's no strings in an electric piano. It's a bit more like a xylophone, really. It's the same premise as a xylophone, or the vibes.
You need to get closer to that. Somebody's saying your audio level is low today for some reason. I don't know if it's just your voice or everything. I don't know.
Audio level of everything?
Well, we got to wait 15 seconds for a response because we're in the future.
There's a 15-second delay, so if somebody sends in, if I play something, it takes 15 seconds to get to you, and then takes 15 seconds to get back to us. So
how's it sound, y'all? Yeah, we're getting agreed.
Huh?
Yep.
It's all right?
No, it's can you from Pro Tools inside maybe?
If you go to
from
the
the
volume
box?
control on that output down there, and just try turning that overall output level up. How do output levels look on the OBS thing?
Oh yeah,
Okay. Okay, the bottom knob on that thing.
One?
Yeah,
The one
bottom.
that says
Yeah,
volume?
turn that up. Turn that up and see if that's any better. Very high-tech operation here at Funk headquarters. Me and She Who Must Be Obeyed, with one laptop computer and two iPhones.
Play again?
She's turning it up again. 1 2 How's that, everybody? 15-second delay as it goes around the world. Much better?
Yeah. Voice is better. Yeah. Ready to rock.
All
Definitely
right.
better.
Good.
All right.
So let me know, people who are watching, Because it's weird here. I sit here in this room. I've got no idea if anybody's actually even watching at all.
No, there's people watching.
There are people watching, I'm sure. But where are you watching from? That's the bit I'm always kind of excited to hear, because we have fans tuning in from all sorts of far-flung parts of the globe. So, as always, these things are never planned or scripted or whatever. So if you have any questions or any requests or any
Here's
observations.
one I'm just looking at now without scrolling down. Kermit Boutte says, I've been trying to think of some lesser-known songs to request. What about Got to Be More Careful or Funky Monkey Business?
Got to be more careful of funky monkey business. One of the problems of writing lots of songs over the years is it's impossible to remember all the words. So I often start these songs with great gusto, knowing the first 2 lines, and then immediately find myself mumbling and got to be more careful. That's more of a guitar tune, but Will, now you got to be more careful when you walk the street alone. Just hiding in the shadows. Oh no, it might be somebody you don't know. Yeah, got to be more careful. Everything you say. I'll write again, I forgot this line. You might go the other way. Gotta watch everything you do. Careful about everything you say. Watching it on me and you. Well, now you got to be more careful. Got to be more careful. Got to be more careful. Something like that.
Want to know where people are?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm scrolling here. Chester, Arizona, Prague, Czech Republic, San Francisco.
Hello,
hold on,
Prague.
Hold on, I got to scroll down past
Hello,
the
Cleveland.
"we can't hear you" comments. Hold on. Minneapolis, Paris, Baltimore, Key West, San Rafael, California, Long Beach,
great.
New York, Newquay, Cornwall, England, Germany, Nashville, Long Beach,
Glad to see
California,
there's some Europeans checking. That's the whole point of doing this one here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. is
Pennsylvania,
So that's evening time in Slovenia.
Cork,
Cork. Oh man, have a Murphy's for me.
Rugby, UK,
Have a game of rugby for me.
Long Island, my people.
All right, cool.
Little Rock,
Anybody want to hear anything
Texas.
special? That got
Yeah,
to
you
be
got
more
a couple.
careful. That song, it all sounds a bit paranoid. That's an expression that Cornell, my bass player, uses all the time. Got to be more careful. And that was written right after the 9/11 thing where, you know, it was all very weird. That was on the Pin Your Spin record.
Okay, here's 3 song requests. All
Okay.
good things. Everything I do from now could be funky. Some so damn good. And then you know what I want to hear whenever you have the Fender
Yeah.
Rhodes fired up.
You want to hear that Lowell George tune?
Yeah.
What
No,
was
the
request
no,
again?
it's the in.
Oh, you want to hear In the Mood, the Tyrone
yeah,
Davis tune?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Oh, God, so good.
And what were those requests for?
Do mine first.
Do yours first.
Then I'll tell you what these are.
All right. So I'm kind of doing an interesting thing. I'm trying to play 2 keyboards at once.
Just play it on the
for
roads.
fun. Well,
All right. Well, you can do it. You are the piano player. You can do what you want.
this is a tune that I learnt from Walter Washington that was originally by Tyrone Davis, an old soul tune from the 70s, which recorded on my first album, Alligator Lips and Dirty Right. Come here, baby. You know I wanna make sweet love with you. Honey sugar, it ain't no telling what I'm gonna do. Ain't that a feeling? I'm feeling a good feeling like I never felt. My love is like ice cream, baby. Sure enough, honey, gonna make you melt. Oh, you. In the mood, oh baby. Are you? In the mood. 'Cause now's the moment. And girl, we ain't got no time to lose. Time be wasted, oh baby, oh baby. And I've got so much love to use. All up on you, babe. Ain't that a feeling? Ain't that a feeling? I'm feeling good feelings like I never felt, like I never felt. Oh baby, 'cause love is like ice cream, baby. Sure up, honey, gonna make you melt. Oh yes it will. Oh you. In the mood. Oh you. In the mood. Are you in the mood, baby? Are you in the mood? Are you in the mood, baby? Are you in the mood? Are you in the mood, baby? You in the mood? Are you in the mood, baby? Oh yeah.
Nice one.
Especially for she who must be obeyed at all
Yay.
times.
All right, now I'll read you some requests.
Okay.
So, all good things. Everything I do from now on gonna be funky. So damn good. Wrong number. When you get back, and then Jimmy Weaver says your favorite Rhodes tune, and then he says, I take it that is a Mach 1 Rhodes. Is it?
You know what? I don't even really
It's a
know. I should
Fender
know all these
Rhodes?
things.
Does that-
It's just
does
a
that mean
thing with
it's a-
some knobs on it and it sounds good when you play it. It's a Rhodes Suitcase 73, if that gives you a clue. It's an old one, apparently. Boy, that's a lot of songs. Damn.
Want me to say it again?
Well, I'll do a little medley of all of them.
A medley.
A
Do you want the
medley.
paper
Well,
with
tell
them
me what they
written
are
on it?
again. I'll see if I can blend them all in some
Here,
kind
look.
of way.
Oops.
Oh, you're going to put the paper down there. All good things come to those who wait. Might be a penny short, or day too late. I know our thing ain't long. Please don't tell me all good things must come to an end right now. All good things, yeah, got to come to an end sometime. That don't mean that this good thing got to end right now. Well, now everything I do gonna be funky from now on. Every little thing I do gonna be funky from now on. I'm gonna be myself. I'm gonna do my thing. And it's okay to do no harm. 'Cause everything I do gonna be funky, people. From now on, everything I do gonna be funky from now on. Everything I do is gonna be funky from now on. I feel so damn good. I'll be happy when I get the blues. I feel so damn good. I'll be happy when I get the blues. So down, bring up, and I'll be winning when I start to lose. Well, not good, just ain't good enough. I gotta have a little rough with the smooth. And if life's too easy when I'm standing still, it's time to get up and move now. I like my sugar a little salty, and I like a little bit with the sweet. You know my light shine bright when I'm hanging on right at the dark end of the street. I feel so damn good. I'm gonna be happy when I get the blues. And I feel so damn good. I'll be happy when I get the blues. She loved me fine when I was fighting from Hong Kong. You know she dug it even better when I was calling long distance on the telephone. Cool and sexy, joining the Coast Guard in Brazil. Oh, but now back here back home, all she wanted to give me is the cheer. She said, when you get back, we're gonna cha-cha. all night long. But she lied, she lied, she lied, she lied. Hey, when you get back, we're gonna sing a different song. You know that she lied, you know that she lied, you know that she lied. Will you get back? Everything be hoochie coo now. Oh, baby, oh, you know she lied. When will you get back? I'll take care of you. Oh, but she lied, she lied, she lied, she lied, she lied, she lied, she lied. Oh, oh, oh. Every time the telephone rings, I hold my breath, hoping it's you now, baby. I'm so scared to death. The phone ring, my crippled heart cry. Oh, yes it did. Let it be you, baby. Then a voice says hello. Can I speak to Joe? I'm sorry, wrong number, wrong number, wrong number, baby. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.
Nice medley.
Request medley.
Nice medley. Wow.
And I even remembered some of the words. That's
Good
incredible.
one. Good
That's
one.
Incredible.
So here's more from Jimmy Weaver, who was asking about the Rhodes. He says, a suitcase. The older ones, Mach 1, had a rounded top versus a flat top. So that's got a rounded top.
It's got a rounded
so it must
top.
be an old one. And then here's a cute comment from Mark Vincent Patterson, evening from Glasgow, Scotland. John?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm currently watching with my mum, who thinks that your hair is nicer, just that wee bit longer. She also says you remind her of Robert De Niro. I'll take that.
Well, Robert was on the phone. He said, for God's sake, whatever you do, don't grow your hair any longer, because then everyone keeps saying I look just like John Cleary.
And
so he begged me not to grow it any longer, because he's fed up with everybody making the comparisons. I personally don't mind. I like Robert De Niro, but he knows of my reputation.
He's just great in Meet the Parents, isn't he? Then there's a question from me. From Robbie Mendelson. Question for Swambo. Where on Long Island did you grow up?
Well, answer the question.
I grew up in Seaford Harbor, actually, so that would make me a harbor rat. But I've been in New Orleans for almost 30 years. So.
You can tell by her
you can tell by my very, very New Orleans accent. You get me start talking to my mother, forget about it. It just comes right back.
Whenever I play one of these, I usually mostly play. It's interesting. We started out talking about the gear, and there are two instruments with keyboards that are identical. Three-syllable word, very hard to wrap your chops around this early in the daytime. But they require that you play them quite differently, really. There are some things that really are suited to this keyboard that aren't suited to the other one, like the boogie woogie I showed you. But whenever I sit down at a Rhodes, the first thing I want to play is this one. Oh, hello, give me Mr. Persons. They said, what is it that you need? I said, whoa, I need hot soul. They said, you gotta stop your bleeding, 'cause no matter what you do, even pray to heaven above, all you'll ever get from her is long distance love. I read the papers, got the blues. I'm so sad to hear the news. Help wanted, but not enough. You know these times are getting rough, 'cause no matter what you do, even pray to heaven above. Whoa, all you'll ever get from her is long distance, long distance, long distance love. Oh, her toes were so pretty, and her life so sweet. I wonder, does she know? Does she know she hurts me so? 'Cause no matter what you do, even pray to heaven above, whoa, all you'll ever get from her is long distance love. That's the tune I always want to play when I sit down behind a rose. That's a Little Feat tune. Billy Payne was the keyboard player on that song.
Okay, got some questions here.
Cool.
James Beaumont says, hello, John. Have you ever covered Johnny Guitar Watson's Lovin' You?
Ooh, what a great tune.
Yeah.
When you walked in the view, loving you. Wow, that's a great tune.
Well,
and what's
you
really
just
hip about
covered
that
it.
tune is the what goes on at the introduction. He never did it. Well, once or twice did a couple of similar things. You listen to the introduction of that tune. That's Johnny Watson really stretching in a whole different direction, painting an abstract sonic picture using the keyboards, and yeah, brilliant. No, I've never thought. I love all his stuff. I could just spend an entire lifetime just recreating Johnny Guitar Watson tunes, but that's a good one.
Richard Friedman says, can you break down the left hand of Rockin' Pneumonia?
Well, yeah, I can, sort of, but there's not a particular part to that song. On a lot of the old tunes and the old recordings, the left hand of the piano can be quite indistinct. And of course, when you make a record, even when you're playing in a band, if you have two instruments that occupy the same sort of sonic territory, they have to work in tandem, because otherwise they can play stuff that doesn't blend very well. And really, the bass end of the piano down here is, well, this whole region here is really where the bass operates. And in those days, they were just making the transitions from acoustic basses to electric basses. Rockin' Pneumonia is by Huey Smith and the Clowns. Huey Smith was the piano player. And what I do when I play it, I pretty much emulate what the bass would be doing. And in a lot of that early New Orleans stuff, the bass lines were quite often similar to country bass lines. In the fact that they played, if you're playing in C.
There's one thing, John, because of the way I have the camera, if you shift a little bit to your right, they might be able to see the left hand.
How's that?
That might work. Yes.
Anyway, at Cosmo's studio in New Orleans, where that was recorded, they had limited microphones, and they had recording gear they worked with then compared to today was very, very primitive, but they actually made better sounding records, in my opinion. And they had to be creative. And I think from something either Cosmo Matasas told me or I read, I can't remember, but they'd stand the bass player in the bend of the shape of the grand piano, facing in, and they'd have one mic that would capture the piano and the bass. And generally the piano player would be really light on the left hand, wouldn't play too much, and in that way one microphone could pick up two instruments, one playing the top end and one playing the bass end, and then you could get a really good blend because they weren't occupying the same territory. So that means that the left hand isn't really all that strong on the record if you listen to it. But I'll show you what I play. And I don't really think about this, so I'm just going to play it without thinking, just see what my left hand does, because I don't really know what it's going to do in advance. So I want to jump, but I'm afraid I'll fall. I want to holler, but the jump's too small. Young man really got a hold of me too. I got the rock and roll morning and the boogie woogie flow. So, for me, I've never really analyzed what I do on the piano particularly, and I kind of almost think if I thought about it too much, it would be disastrous. I'd be like the tightrope walker that actually looks down and then falls off, the one who was doing fine up until that point. But the two hands work in tandem, and where the basic riff is, I want to jump, but I'm afraid I'll fall. I want to holler, but the jump's too small. I mean, that's kind of the oompa. About the most basic bass line you can find. And it's often the most basic bass lines are the ones that really get the job done. And New Orleans music features very prominently in the parade tradition the tuba, and so the tuba is an instrument. All instruments lend themselves to being played in a certain way, and so if you think of German folk music with what the tuba does in the bass, the oompa kind of thing. Well, in New Orleans they have that, but of course they make it more funky. So the way I emulate that would be doing something like this. So it's a mixture of various things. There's good things to learn on the left-handed piano. If you don't want to learn boogie woogie, it's good to learn the octave walking bass. It's good to learn the old junker's left hand. Kind of mix them all up and utilize all the skills there. So as I say, I don't really have a part, and it changes all the time, and it really just supports the song. I'm trying to get better at concentrating on singing more than I concentrate on the piano. And sometimes when you're playing a couple of instruments at once and singing at the same time, especially when you're the band leader too and you're trying to pay attention to everything else, you find yourself getting pulled in all these different directions. But the piano, the left hand, that stuff kind of almost, that's like a little separate part of the brain that I can trust just to get on with the job, and I don't have to think about it until I have to think about it, like now. And then I get confused by it. Anyway, I hope that little illustration's kind of clarified something at least.
Carl Rubin says, what is John's favorite Earl King tune?
Oh, God, my favorite Earl King tune? Well, probably Lonely, Lonely Nights, although, I mean, that was, I don't know if that's one of his best tunes, and actually not necessarily the style that he actually became better known for, but I like it because, for the same reasons that many people fall in love with tunes, it's often because it's the sentimental associations. I knew it because my uncle had the record that he brought back from New Orleans, and I'd heard it before, but it really made an indelible impression on me because it was the first tune I heard on arrival in New Orleans. And when I went to the Maple Leaf Bar for the first time, the night I arrived, and Earl King was on the stage playing, and he was playing that tune. And the first time I got a gig many years later, when I got hired to play piano with him, I played that song, and I played the Huey Smith piano solo, and he turned around and looked at me because he wasn't expecting the keyboard player du jour to really even know who he was or what he did. And so we hit it off and became good friends. And the guy actually introduced me to him was Mac Rebennack. And anyway, I got to play in Earl King's band for a while. So I played a bunch of his tunes. He was great fun, Earl. I had some fun occasions hanging out with Earl. The last time I saw him was at what was that shop called on Broad and no, it was on Claiborne Avenue.
The Botanica?
No, the pie shop.
Tasty Donuts?
No, it was like Sydney's something and pie shop. I can't remember. Anyway, okay, yeah. So Lonely, Lonely Nights. I like it because I'm a sucker for that old, what they call a 12/8 groove, which is associated with Smiley Lewis and Fats Domino, really. But loads of hit records came out of New Orleans with that triplet groove. But also it was the template for a lot of the pop music that then came out of Southwest Louisiana, down in Cajun country, and they called that swamp pop. So Lonely, Lonely Nights goes like this. There've been some lonely, lonely nights. Ah, baby, yeah, since you've been gone. I lay my head down on my pillow, baby. Yeah, you know I cried all night long. So that's 12/8, that triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 4 triplets, 12 notes, 12/8 notes, so it's called 12/8. And the same, everyone's familiar with, I found my thrill on Blueberry, or One Night of Sin. What I'm not paying for, the things I did and I saw can make the earth stand still. Don't call my name. You know I'd feel so ashamed. I've lost my sweet helping hand. I've got myself to blame. Yeah, Smiley Lewis.
I hear you knocking.
Yeah. Well, now you went away, left me long time ago. Now here you come back, knocking on my door. Yeah, I hear you now. knocking, and for the example of the swamp pop stuff, you got another record I learnt from my uncle's record collection when he came back from New Orleans when I was a kid. It was Jiving Gene and the Jokers from somewhere around Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm not quite sure. Maybe somebody listening will be able to tell me. But Jiving Gene and the Jokers. Breaking up is hard to do. Breaking up is sad and blue. Breaking up is the thing to do. Don't you know what I say is true? Like I told you once before, this fussing and fighting there'll be no more. I will make this promise to you, just to prove my love is true. Breaking up is hard to do. Yeah, breaking up is hard to do. Jiving Gene and the Jokers. But what's hip? One time I was with Earl, and we were talking about Lonely, Lonely Nights, and he said, I wrote that to be a country tune.
Really?
I always think of it as like great rock in New Orleans, R&B, it sounded black New Orleans. He said, no, man, I wrote that really hoping that some white country singer would pick it up and have a big hit and make me loads of money. So, man, all this music's all connected. It's all connected.
Do you want a question that requires a talking answer or a question that requires you to play? I'll let you pick. What's behind door A?
All right, talking answer first.
Okay, talking answer. This is a deep one. Brian Hargreaves says, hey, John, in a handful of words, describe New Orleans' soulful vibe for someone who has never been.
In a handful of words.
Or a book.
Yeah. Well, New Orleans is a culture, a small city with a culture that's kind of been involved in a bit of tectonic plate shiftage through accidents of history and geography. And it's part of the United States and has been in recent times, and is very American in many ways. But the underlying culture here is French, Spanish, and African. And it was originally the northernmost part of the Caribbean world. And when it was bought in the Louisiana Purchase, it went from being the far north to being the deep south. So it's the far north of the Caribbean world, includes Cuba and Haiti, for example. And it's the deep south of the United States, which goes all the way up to the Canadian border. So it's a very eccentric little city, and it's gone through lots of changes over the years. At one time, many years ago, there was a lot of money here. And in more recent times, it's been considered a pretty poor city, I think, in many ways, with a rich heritage. Great music, great fun, lovely people. Food is fantastic. We have carnivals and festivals all year round. The architecture's lovely, Caribbean Creole architecture. And it's very hot. The mosquito is the state bird. We have mosquitoes and alligators and giant cockroaches. And it's one of the friendliest places you'll ever come to, with one of the highest murder rates. So you have to reconcile those two things. There's a line that my uncle told me the night before I left him. I was 17 or 18 years old, and it was a quote from a George Lewis tune called Burgundy Street Blues. and he said, "It's a place of mixed emotions. It'll stamp a memory on your heart that will never leave." And certainly never, that stamp, he carries that stamp to this day. He lived here for a few years and fell in love with New Orleans. It was his infectious love of New Orleans that rubbed off on me when I was little. It seemed like this very exotic place. And it still is very exotic to me. But I could talk about this all day long, so I hope that answers your question a little bit.
That was lovely. All right, here's your musical question from Simao Soares. Mr. Cleary, can you interpret something from Jelly Roll?
Well, you know, I'm not really a Jelly Roll scholar. And stride piano is not something that I've ever been particularly good at, or that I really actually cared for that much. I very admire people, really good pianists like Scott Kirby and Tom McDermott, guys like that really can play that stuff well. Stride piano is this sort of... interested in the history of it. You know, there's only so many hours in one lifetime, and you have to kind of pick what you want to work at. Some people decide they want to be a piano player. I started out wanting to be a guitar player. Played guitar for about 10 years, for hours every day, to the point where I was getting some chops and stuff, and then I made a switch and moved to the piano. And I've continued making switches, and I'm happier being able to put out a basic groove on a bunch of different instruments than to have ever focused on trying to play the entire spectrum of different New Orleans styles, because they're all very different, and New Orleans has been here for a long time. So Jelly Roll Morton, the one I like, the stuff of his that I'm really interested in is the stuff that demonstrates a connection to the Caribbean music, because I've always been fascinated by that aspect. Closest connections between New Orleans and Santiago de Cuba and Havana. I think it's Cienfuegos. Is it Cienfuegos or Camagüey or Cienfuegos? I can't remember. There's a town in Cuba that was founded by people from New Orleans. So a lot of close connections and a lot of close links. But the one I like is the crave. And as I say, there are scholars who will sit there and read notation and get all the fingering. I tend to prefer to hear stuff and listen to it and absorb the atmosphere of it and then play it my way. So this is not, there are Jelly Roll Morton scholars out there who would see me playing and think, oh no, he's butchering it. But I think it's important to take the essence of pieces of music and dress them up in different ways and not treat them as museum pieces necessarily. But anyway, that one goes like this. It's got this groove, which is a groove. If you've seen any of the Tuesday night Quarantinis recently, you will have heard this groove played by Herlin Riley and by A.J. Hall and Ivan Neville. This is a pulse that goes through a lot of the music from this part of the world. Even today in modern pop music, it comes out of Jamaica, for example. But in this example, it's building on a thing called the habanera, which was popular at the time that Jelly Roll Morton was a young man. Jelly Roll Morton thing called The Crave. It's that with a habanera groove. Yeah.
I just want to do a little shout out to Sue Flood and Chris.
Oh, Sue and Chris.
Oh, we miss you guys. Maybe we'll get to see you some point. And then there's there's a bunch of
from here.
waving. Bunch of requests. Shall I read them?
Yes.
Okay. Dixie Chicken, Big Greasy, Paul Gayton, The Sweeper, Let Them Talk, Skin in the Game, Guess Who, 21st Century, Sometimes I Wonder, That's Enough, Mr. Bad Luck.
Blimey,
Blind me.
that's a load. And there's so many of them, you have to read them all out again.
Okay, all right, ready?
Okay, I'll just
Dix-
stop at one when you okay.
Dixie Chicken.
All right, hold on for that. Let's do that one. I don't know what key they're doing. I seen the bright lights of Memphis in the Commodore Hotel. Underneath the street lamps, I met a certain gal. She took me to the river, and there she cast her spell. And underneath the street lamp, she sang the song so well. If you be my Dixie chicken, I'll be your Tennessee lamb, and we can walk together down in Dixieland, down in Dixieland. Here goes a little bit of that. What's
Nice
next on
one.
the list? I'm going to ration them out because
All
there's
right.
a lot of long requests here.
Tell me when to stop.
So, I mean, I love that tune, but I don't think I've ever actually tried singing that one before. That's the first time I played it.
Oh, you did all right.
Probably got the words wrong, but
I think that was pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you got him. Big Greasy, Paul Gayton, The Sweeper, Let Them
Greasy.
Talk.
What's the Big Greasy? I-10 east to the 59 south is where I wanna be. Trucking through the deep down dirty south of my hometown, New Orleans. Been out here on the road too long, carrying this heavy load. A red tail light on a rainy night, gonna haul my ass back home. Big Greasy, sloppy, sleazy, nice and easy. My Big Greasy, ducking down in the trailmate to Rampart and Dumaine. Poor boy Gene on Elysian Fields, doing a Port Street boogie and back again. Blue moon on the bayou, sweet as in the swamp. Big Chief bow on a meal warm bow, tribe gonna get it on anyhow. Big Greasy, nice and easy, sloppy, sleazy, my Greasy, Big Greasy. Yeah, that's my little love letter to New Orleans. Oh boy, it just breaks my heart when there's a line in there, Po' Boy Gene on Elysian Fields. Gene's Po' Boy shop just closed about, 6 months ago?
Yeah, something
It's
like
been
that.
an iconic place. It was painted kind of Pepto-Bismol pink. It was a real rundown, funky little Po' Boys store. That's where
Really
the rappers
good
used
po'
to get their
boys.
Po' Boys.
Yeah, really good. They were big po' boys.
It was pretty ghetto, but it was and it was hit or miss too. I got some great Po' Boys out. I got some funky ones too, but sorely missed. And the daiquiri shop next door. What was
Alright.
next on that list?
Should I start from the bottom of the list?
Yeah.
Okay. So Swell When You're Well, Mr. Bad Luck,
So Swell When You're Well. I just recorded that with James Rivers and Johnny Vidakovich
and James
and
Singleton.
James Singleton for an album on the Nouvelle label. It's going to come out later in the year. Yeah. What else is there?
Here's another
Some
one
of
just
these I
came
don't actually
in.
know. There's a Paul Gayton song I'm not hip to.
Oh, Paul the Sweeper.
Yeah, I don't know the Sweeper.
Okay.
Check that.
Here's another one that just came in. I'm in love with another guy.
Okay. Okay, that's by Little Willie John. I'm not sure. Well, you know, I feel so doggone lonely. And today just isn't my day. When I got up this morning, yeah. Oh, I found a letter on my bed. Probably not the best key for this. When I opened up that letter, oh, you know my poor heart breaks down and cried. She said, now, Daddy, I hate to leave you. Oh, yes. You see, I'm in love with another guy. Couple more, and then we'll let's get. What,
right.
Oh, it's that time.
It's that time.
What's on the list? Let me play one
All right.
to say good
All right.
farewell to you. Before we go, I should say very thank you to the people the fans who've been joining the Patreon site. We're up to 100 people have joined up, which is great, and they're going to be getting all kinds of little extra outtakes and rehearsal tapes and the background stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So if you're interested in any of that and you dig this stuff, go to patreon.com, type in my name, and you'll see the information there. And
Tuesday.
on Tuesday, on Tuesday, Herlin Riley's going to come in. And Herlin was here on the show a few weeks ago, and it was a night where we had Facebook issues and the technical problems. So it kind of interrupted the flow. It was great fun and a good show, but I want to get him back so we can properly get into the groove. And so check in on Tuesday night, because he's really one of the best drummers in the city that has the best drummers in the world, and is an inheritor of a tradition, very important tradition, and legacy directly through many of his direct and indirect family members who are very important players in New Orleans music for the last several generations. So a rare chance to see Herlin Riley. He plays with Wynton Marsalis and is part of the Lincoln Center jazz scene up there in New York, but he's from right here in New Orleans, and he's going to be here on Tuesday night. So do check in, tell all your friends, because it's a great chance to learn a little bit of behind the scenes information about the people who actually make the music, not the stars that have their names plastered all over the front of the records, but the people who are actually in the studio putting down the grooves. And you get a chance to ask him some questions and find out where it came from. And he's great at teaching and giving examples of all that stuff, so don't miss out on that. Thank you for those of you foolhardy enough to go spiraling towards the tip jar, which is there, because that's what keeps the lights on here at Funk Headquarters. And the Patreon link is there too, so click on that and check it out. And I'm going to leave you with a tune. What's the
All right,
rest
Let
of
Them
the list?
Talk, Skin in the Game, Guess Who, 21st Century, Sometimes I Wonder, That's Enough, Mr. Bad Luck.
Oh, blimey, there's loads of them. Mr. Big Stuff.
Mr. Bad Luck.
Mr. Bad Luck, I don't know that one. I know Mr. Big Stuff, I don't read it. But I'll play this one for you. This one I wrote for Taj Mahal. I know it's hard to love a gypsy. Don't you worry, baby, 'cause I'll soon be coming home to you. And if I got to steal away, I could think of the night now, baby. It's only 'cause I hate to say a long goodbye to you. And I know there ain't nowhere could ever compare, baby, with the comfort of your big breast bed. You see, I got a long, hard road to travel. I'm only cold, hard, stony ground for this poor boy. This poor boy to rest his weary, worried head. Like a fish out of water, I'm drowning on dry land. See if I ain't got a reservation ticket, baby, right here in the palm of my hand. Well, you know I'm your 21st century gypsy singing. Love of mine. On that lovely 6 chord, I shall bid you all farewell for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing a little bit of the New Orleans vibes with us here. Special thanks to She Who Must Be Obeyed at all times.
Thank
and
you.
I repeat, all times.
Thank you.
Without fail. Tuesday night, Hurl and Riley. Tell all your friends. Cheers.